Hello, grade 6. Welcome back to Nelson Math, Chapter 1, Section 6. Solving a more complicated problem by solving a simpler problem first. I'm going to read you this somewhat involved and complicated problem, and we're going to see how we can make it simpler to solve it. The question is, how many total handshakes would take place if everyone in the class shook hands with everyone else exactly one time? There are 25 kids in this class, and that would take too long to count. So child A shaking hands with child B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way down to the 25th child. That's a lot of kids. We have to count each and every one of those and make sure we are organized enough to keep exactly one handshake. Well, that's a bit difficult. So we're going to start by pretending there are fewer kids in the class, starting with 2 kids. So right here, I've made a chart, and I'm going to indicate the following on this chart. The number of students, in this case 2, the actions, and here we have a student named R who is shaking hands with a student named A, and we have one handshake happening, and I even made a little diagram here. So once R shakes with A does not have to shake with R because they've already shaken hands. So if there are only 2 students, there's only one handshake. That's the simplest one we can do, unless we say, well, what if there's only 1 student? Then there would be 0 handshakes. But that's a little bit too simple. So let's see what would happen if we would have 3 students. I'm going to have 3 students right there. So if we have 3 students, I've named them A, B, and R. So here we have, I'm going to show everyone that R shakes with. R would shake hands with student A, and then R would shake hands with student B, and that would then leave student A shaking hands with student B. So there are 2 here in red with student R, and 1 in blue that does not involve student R. This way I'm keeping an organized list. So 2 handshakes for R, 1 handshake in red, rather, 2 in red, and 1 in blue. And we can say 2 plus 1 gives us 3 handshakes. If we drew it out, we could draw like this and 1 linkage to every other student. That would be with 3 students, 3 handshakes. Let's now increase this to 4 students. Once again, we're going to color code. So every time R shakes hands, we're going to put in red. Every time A shakes hands, we'll put it in blue. And every time B shakes hands, we'll put it in green. So here we have R shaking with A, R shaking with B, R shaking with C. That's 3 red. That's our red right there. A shaking with B, A shaking with C. That's 2 blue. These are 2 right there. B shaking with C. That's in green. That's 1 right there. So we can sort of possibly see a pattern coming out now. We see 3 plus 2 plus 1. That's 6. And here we've written it in diagram form. So you can see all the linkages. There's exactly 1 linkage to every other person in the 4 people. Let's move forward now. It's getting slightly more involved, but you can see that there are 4 shaking hands in red, 3 shaking hands in blue, 2 shaking hands in green, and 1 shaking hands in light blue. So there's our 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, and that sums to 10. And here we have our linkage. Once again, every single student is linked exactly, and every one of these lines, the handshake, is linked exactly to one other student. So now we can start looking for a pattern. Here we have just 1. Here we have 2 plus 1. Here we have 3 plus 2 plus 1. Here we have 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. And we can start seeing a pattern here. So it starts off, the first number is always 1 less than our number of students. So if we have 2 students, we start with 1. If we have 3 students, we start with 2. If we have 4 students, we start with 3. If we have 5 students, we start with 4. So if we had 6 students, it would be 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 for 15 total handshakes. So if we had 25 students, the pattern would be 24 plus 23 plus 22 plus 21 and so on, all the way down to plus 1. You can add this up a few different ways. The most straightforward way would simply be take a calculator out and start adding them up. But see if you can find a pattern within the pattern and try to find a faster way of doing this. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.